Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're towards the end of the story of the Bedouin and the Caliph. So this session, I believe, will be the last session for this story. So the Bedouin went all the way to the Dar al-Khalafa in Baghdad, and he met the Naqiban and the Darbanan, the chamberlains and the officers of the Caliph. And we discussed that these chamberlains, these officers, represent the awliya and the anbiya. So he gave them that jar, which again Mawlana explained that that jar is our body and our heart. That water inside is our heart that we need to keep pure and then gift it to Allah. So the Bedouin gave that jar to the officers, and they laughed. They laughed because they knew that the Caliph doesn't need this jar. The Caliph is entirely without need, as the Caliph here represents Allah Ta'ala, Ghaniyun. Allah Ta'ala doesn't need anyone. But because those officers were also generous, the characteristics of that king had affected those officers as well. So they were thankful to the Bedouin, and they accepted that gift. And then Mawlana told us the story of the grammarian and the boatman. He said, from all sorts of knowledge, all kinds of knowledge, the only type of knowledge that will help you on the day of death, when the ship of your body is wrecked, on that day, the only knowledge is swimming. And swimming is annihilation, self-effacement. That's the only knowledge that will help you on that day. And that's what the story of the grammarian was all about. And yeah, he said the Bedouin was excusable. He didn't know about the Dijla. He didn't know about the Tigris. If he knew about the Tigris, as we know, he wouldn't have carried that jug from place to place. He would have broken his jug. He would have dashed that jug against a stone. Now the new section Mawlana says, قبول کردن خلیفه هدیه را و عطا فرمودن با کمال بی‌نیازی از آن هدیه و از آن صبور. How the Caliph accepted the gift, even though he was without need. He didn't need that gift and the jug. So inshallah, we're going to read this section today. Brother Abdurrahman, if you're not too tired and if you don't mind.
When the Caliph saw and heard his story, he filled the jug with gold and added. He delivered the Arab from penury. He bestowed donations and special robes of honor, saying, give into his hand this jug full of gold. When he returns, take him to the Tigris. He has come by way of the desert, and by traveling it will be nearer for him by water. When he embarked in the boat and beheld the Tigris, he was prostrating himself in shame and bowing, saying, oh, wonderful is the kindness of that bounteous king, and it is more wonderful that he took that water. How did that sea of munificence so quickly accept from me such spurious coins as this? Know, O son, that everything in the universe is a jug, which is to the brim with wisdom and beauty. It is a drop of the Tigris of his beauty, which because of its fullness is not contained under the skin. It was a hidden treasure, because of its fullness it burst forth and made the earth more shining than the heavens. It was a hidden treasure, because of its fullness it surged up and made the earth a sultan robed in satin. And if he had seen a branch of the divine Tigris, he would have destroyed that jug, destroyed it. They that saw it are always beside themselves. Like one beside himself, they held a stone at the jug. O you who from jealousy have held a stone at the jug, while the jug has become more perfect through being shattered. The jar is shattered, the water is not spilled from it. From this shattering have arisen 100 soundnesses. Every piece of the jar is in dance and ecstasy. To the partial reason this seems absurd. In this state neither the jug nor the water is manifest. Consider well, and God knows best what is right. When you knock at the door of reality, it will be opened to you. Beat the pinion of thought in order that you may be made a king falcon. The pinion of your thought has become mud-stained and heavy, because you are a clay eater. Clay has become to you as bread. Bread and meat are clay. Eat little of them, that you may not remain in the earth like clay. When you become hungry, you become a dog. You become fierce and ill-tempered and ill-natured. When you have eaten your fill, you have become a carcass. You have become devoid of understanding and without feet, like a wall. So at one time you are a carcass and at another time a dog. How will you run well in the road of the lions? Know that your only means of hunting is the dog. Throw bones to the dog, but seldom. Because when the dog has eaten its fill, it becomes rebellious. How should it run to the goodly chase and hunt? Want of food was leading the Arab to that court, and he found his fortune. We have related in the story the kindness shown by the king to that needy one who had no refuge. Whatever the man in love speaks, the scent of love is springing from his mouth into the abode of love. If he speak theology, it all turns to poverty. The scent of poverty comes from that man of sweet and beguiling discourse. And if he speaks infidelity, it has the scent of religion. And if he speaks doubtfully, his doubt turns to certainty. The perverse froth that has risen from a sea of sincerity, that turbid has been set out by the pure source. Know that its froth is pure and worthy. Know that it is like revilement from the lips of the beloved, whose unsought reproaches have become sweet for the sake of her cheek which he desires. If it speaks falsehood, it seems the truth. O falsehood that would adorn the truth! If you cook of sugar in the form of a loaf of bread, it will taste of candy, not of bread, while you are sucking it. If a true believer finds a golden idol, how should he leave it for the sake of a worshipper? No, he will take it and cast it into the fire. He will break its borrowed form, in order that the idol shaper may not remain on the gold, because form hinders and waylays. The essence of its gold is the essence of lordship. The idol stamp or the sterling gold is borrowed. Do not burn a blanket on account of a flea, and do not let the day go on account of every gnat's headache. You are an idol worshipper when you remain in forms. Leave its form and look at the reality. If you are a man for the pilgrimage, seek a pilgrim companion, whether he is a Hindu or a Turk or an Arab. Do not look at his figure and color, look at his purpose and intention. If he is black, he is in accord with you. Call him white, for his complexion is the same as yours. This story has been told up and down like the doings of lovers without foot or head. It has no head inasmuch as it existed before eternity. It has no foot, it has been akin to everlastingness. No, it is like water. Every drop is both head and foot, and at the same time without both. This is not a story, mark you, God forbid. This is the ready money of my state and yours. Consider well. Because the Sufi is grand and glorious, whatever is past is not remembered. We are both the Arab and the jug and the king. We are all. He that has been turned away from it shall be turned away. Know that the husband is reason and the wife is greed and cupidity. These two are dark and deniers. Reason is the candle. Now hear the origin of their denial from where it arose, from the fact the whole has various parts. The parts of the whole are not parts in relation to the whole, not like the scent of the rose, which is a part of the rose. The beauty of green herbs is a part of the rose's beauty. The coo of the turtle dove is a part of that nightingale. If I become occupied with a difficulty and the answer, how shall I be able to give water to the thirsty? If you are wholly perplexed and in straits, have patience. Patience is the key to joy. Abstain from thoughts. Abstain. Thought is the lion and the wild ass, and hearts are the thickets. Acts of abstinence are superior to medicines, because scratching is an increase of the itch. Assuredly, abstinence is the first principle of medicine. Abstain and behold the strength of the spirit. Receive these words like an ear, that I may make for you an earring of gold. You will become a ring in the ear of the moon that works in gold. You will ascend to the moon and the Pleiades. First, hear that the diverse created beings are spiritually different, from Ya to Aleph. Amongst the various letters there is confusion and uncertainty, though from one point of view they are one from head to foot. From one aspect they are opposites, and from one aspect they are unified. From one aspect they are a joke, and from one aspect they are serious. Therefore the resurrection is the day of the supreme inspection. Inspection is desired by him who is glorious and splendid. Whoever is like a fraudulent Hindu, for him the day of inspection is the time of exposure, inasmuch as he has not a face like the sun. He desires nothing but night like a veil. Since his thorn has not a single rose leaf, spring is the enemy of his conscience. While to one that is roses and lilies from head to foot, spring is a pair of bright eyes. The unspiritual thorn wishes for autumn, in order that it may jostle with the rose garden, and that it may hide the beauty of that and the shame of this, so that you may not see the colour of that and the colour of this. Therefore autumn is its spring and life. The stone and the pure ruby appear one. The gardener knows that even in autumn, but the one sight is better than the world's sight. Truly, that one person is the world. He is unaware of evil. The stars, every one, are all part of the moon. Therefore, every fair form and shape is crying, good news, lo, here comes the spring. So long as the blossom is shining like a coat of mail, how should the fruits display their knobs? When the blossom is shed, the fruit comes to a head. When the body is shattered, the spirit lifts up its head. The fruit is the purpose, the blossom is its face. The blossom is the good news, the fruit is the bounty for it. When the blossom was shed, the fruit became visible. When that diminished, this began to increase. How should bread give strength until it is broken? How should uncrushed clusters yield wine? Unless flavored oil is pounded up with medicines, how should the medicines by themselves become health increasing?
Thank you so much, Brother Abdurrahman. Yeah, it's one of those long passages in the Masnavi, right? So 4 pages. So it starts from the story. So the Khalifa hears about this man's condition. From Khalifa did و احوالش شنید, he hears about this man's condition and he fills the jar with gold, mazid, and other things. So he gave this Bedouin everything that he desired and more, a lot more. آن عرب را کرد از فاقه خلاص. He saved him from poverty. داد بخشش ها و خلعت های خاص, and he gave him robes of honor. خلعت is robe of honor. Now, he tells his officers, he says, now, when he's going back, send him back from another route, from the route of Dijla. That's closer. He's come from the dry land. Now send him back from the Dijla, so that he gets to see the Tigris, gets to see the Dijla. He's come from the desert. Let him see the water as well. Now, this Bedouin, Bedouins nowadays, they have technology. They've seen. So this is the first time he's seeing that Tigris. He's seeing that's water for the first time. So he immediately, out of humility, out of hayal, bashfulness, shame, he falls prostrate and says, how wonderful, how kind is this king. How bounteous this king is. Wahhab is one of the names of Allah. How bounteous he is. And it's even more wonderful that he accepted that water from me. He had no need for that water I had in the jug. Why did he accept that? Again, out of his bounty. چون پذیرفت از من آن دریای جود آنچنان نقد دغل را زود. Why did he accept my نقد دغل, counterfeit money? He had the Dijla. In comparison to that, anything I could offer, anything I could bring to the king was counterfeit money. How did he accept that? And then Mawlana says, كل عالم را سبودان ای پسر. My son, so know that everything, the whole world is a jug, is like that jug. If you give the whole world, bring the whole world, in comparison to that ocean, in comparison to Allah, it's just like that jug. قطره‌ای از دجله خوبی اوست. It's just like a drop from his ocean of his beauty. Which is why Mawlana mentioned the story of the grammarian and knowledge, because some people think because they know they're bringing something And again, there is this story about Sayyidina Musa and Khizr. So Moses is praying, Ya Allah, show me someone who knows more than me, who's more knowledgeable than me. And Allah Ta'ala shows him Khizr. The story is in Surah Al-Kahf, how they forget the fish and then they go back and they find Khizr. And then when they're both on a ship, they're both on a boat. And then there's a bird that comes and takes out the water, just drinks one drop of the ocean's water. And then Khizr looks at Moses and says, look, my knowledge and your knowledge. I know things that you don't know. You know things that I might not know. But my knowledge and your knowledge together is just like that one drop from this ocean of Allah Ta'ala's knowledge. So what are we bringing to Allah? And then he says, Ganja makhfi bod se porri chak kard. He was a hidden treasure, and because of its fullness, it radiated, right? It burst out and bubbled up. And then khak ra taban tar az aflak kard. And the earth became more shining than heavens. Because Adam alayhi salam, he was made of earth. When Allah Ta'ala created Adam, he said, Tabarakallah ahsan al-khaliqin, the best of creators. And what that means is that Adam is the best of created beings, best of makhluqin. So the most beautiful of makhluqin, the most beautiful of creatures, it was made in dust, from dust. So that's why dust is more shining than heavens. So خاک را سلطان اطلس پوش کرد. He made the earth a sultan robed in satin. And then, yes, he says, if he had seen that divine tigress, if anyone sees that divine tigress, they would destroy that jug. They would destroy the jug of their existence immediately. Those who have seen the beauty of Allah, those who have seen the tigress, that manifestation, those who have seen that, they become bikhod, they become intoxicated. They hurl the stone at the jug of their own existence. They seek the fana, they seek being annihilated of the ego, of the individual self. And when they do that, they become more complete, they become more perfect. When you break the jar, don't think that the water is spilled. No, the water rises to heaven, and that shattering makes you more sound. It makes you more perfect. And every piece of that jar is in dance and ecstasy. And Mawlana explained that when does that dance happens? It's when the spirit wants to flee from the body, and it can't. It's just like that bird which wants to flee from the cage, but it can't flee from the cage. So it just hits himself against it. That's the dance of the Sufis. It moves the body because the spirit is restless. Yes, whatever.
This is a very long section, and there's a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of very beautiful things to explore here. So it will take quite some time.
Yeah.
The section that you've just gone over again, it's just I really like, because I think in other places when Mawlana talks about our counterfeit coin,
Mm-hmm.
what a wonderful trader
Mm-hmm.
Allah is, because we give him this rubbish counterfeit coin and he gives us all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a beautiful metaphor.
Indeed.
Because it's so true. If you try to honestly consider yourself and your own the things that you do, and you're even a little bit aware of your own selfishness, then it is amazing that anything is given. And then that's just so, it's like Rabia Basri, I love you with two loves, the love that for the things you do and the love of what you are. It's just that, and it's and when goes on to talk about the hidden treasure and all of these kinds of things. It just
Mhm.
feel like sometimes you begin to fray at the edge
Mhm.
the thing that you are. It's just so lovely.
Indeed. Yes, Rafid.
Sina, actually, yeah, adding to this idea of accepting whatever we bring to the table or
Mhm.
offer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Mhm.
Although they are defective, He accepts that. And this
Mhm.
reminds me of a very beautiful line to Imam Ali alayhi salam in Khutbat al-Wasila. He says the most honorable act of generosity
Mhm.
of a generous person does is that they give a blind eye to defects,
Mhm.
and they accept, like they know there are defects and problems with
Mhm.
whatever is offered to them, but they accept them.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is like the most honorable
Yeah.
act of a generous person
Mhm.
would do. Yeah, and this is one like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala generosity that He's
Mhm.
and that's what we say in the dua. يا من أعطى كثير
Mhm.
بالقليل. He would give
Mhm.
the abundant to
Mhm.
like to the few that we or the less that is offered.
Indeed. Allah. Indeed. You know, what you said reminded me of a story about Abu Sayyid Abu al-Khair. So they said that he was in a bathhouse, and there was this dallak in the bathhouse. You know, dallaks would give massage, and they would also help people wash themselves. And so what this dallak was doing, he was gathering all the dirty water around Abu Said, and that was their custom. They would keep the dirty water around to show that I'm doing something. Look how dirty you were before I before I washed you. And so this dallak was doing that. He was keeping the dirty water around Abu Said as he was washing him. And then he was asking Abu Said, "Can you give me advice? What is Sufism all about? What is what should a person do to be a true Sufi?" And then Abu Said said, "I give you one advice: don't show people their defects. Don't show people the dirty water." Yeah, and that's the khulq of Allah. That's the quality of Allah. He doesn't show people their defects. And sattar, the person who hides, not from everyone else, but also from yourself, your defects. Yeah, this line, and also this line, "Anke دیدندش همیشه بی خودند." Those who saw that Dijla, those who saw that Tigris are always beside themselves. And this again reminds me of a story from Sa'di. So in Sa'di's Bustan, there is this village chief with his son, and they're going on their way. Suddenly, the king's army arrives. The king of kings, Shahanshah, the king of kings' army arrives with all the glory and all the splendor and drums and elephants, and each officer has a silk robe and crowns and jewels, and all with arrows and quivers, all that glory and splendor. So the village chief and his son are amazed, and the son looks at his father, and before his father looked so great to him, now his father doesn't seem that great. And the village chief, goes and hides, goes and hides behind the bush. And the son goes to him and says, "Father, you're the village chief. You're the greatest man in this village. Why did you hide? Why are you trembling like a leaf? What is happening?" And the village chief, he says, "Yes, I'm the chief of this village, but I have honor so far as I'm in this village. I have that greatness so long as I stay here. In comparison to the King of Kings, I have no honor." And then Sa'di concludes from this story. He says, "بزرگان از آن دهشت آلودند که در بارگاه ملک بودند." The greatest saints, this is why they're trembling always. This is why they're always humble, because they've seen the King of Kings. They've seen the palace of the King of Kings. Those who think they're someone, those who think they're a village chief, it's because they haven't been outside their village of their own existence. Those who think they know something, or they are something. Those who've seen the King of Kings, they become beside themselves. They break the jar of their own existence, as Mawlana says here. Yes, Rafat.
Yeah, it seems that like the suggestion also like let him go the direct way, or the closest way, back, and through the Tigris. I believe this is also another act, with generosity. It's and also an act of tarbiyah, ruhiyya, spiritual edification. And the way is that, they don't tell him, what we have, or what the Lord, or what the Caliph has is more than this, jar. And they don't go into details and everything, verbiage, They just tell him, they just show him the way, and let him discover the fact himself.
Indeed.
Just by telling him, hey, this is the way, and that's the straight, or the closest way back. And there he will discover whether what he presented is nothing, without telling him, and this is like, it's one of the methods, also used by the greatest teachers, is that they show rather than tell.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. So they show him the Dijla, and he sees the Dijla. Yeah. Yes, but
I think also, if the Bedouin wasn't shown the Tigris, and he just returned home, he'd be so very puffed up with pride. Look at my gift! I gave that whole jug of water to the king, and he was,
he was impressed. Yes.
He was so impressed. If we're not, if our acts don't take us outside of ourselves, all it seems to do is reinforce the self. And so sometimes we need to be taken outside of ourselves to see just how small we really are. And that, in that sense, reminds me, some of the imagery here, like the heavens, what have you, remind me of Surah Mulk, where it talks about throwing your vision out into the sky and it coming back to you defeated, doing that several times. That the immensity of God's creation is too much for the human mind and will exhaust you. What then of the creator of the material universe and form and so on and so forth? And I think it's important for us to see and essentially witness that truth rather than hear it described to us. We need to see these things experientially. So I think it's important. Maybe that's why then Mawlana refers to the seems to refer to the hadith of the hidden treasure and what have you. So
indeed. So yes, Mawlana says this is something that you need to see. You should see by yourself. Khush bibin, so see yourself. Wallahu a'lam bis-sawab, and God knows what is best. Now, if you want to see what the Bedouin saw, if you want to experience that, you need to knock. You need to knock on the door, and then the door will be open to you. Any door that you knock and you persist, the door will be open to you. If you want to become a king falcon, the falcon that sits on the shoulders of kings, at least beat the pinion of thought. Move your wings. Fly towards that direction. Now, do you know why you can't fly? Because you've become heavy. Because you've become mud-stained and heavy. And that's why you can't fly. Because you've become a clay eater. So eating stops you from flying spiritually. نان گل است و گوشت کمتر خور از این. So eat less bread and meat, that you may not remain in earth like clay. So the more you eat, the heavier you become, and the harder it becomes for you to fly. And then he explains what he means is moderation. When you're too hungry, you become a dog. You become fierce, ill-tempered. And when you've eaten your fill, then you're just like you're just like a corpse. No movement, no understanding. So at one time you're a corpse, at another time you're a dog. You need to become a lion. And then he says, آلت اشکار خود جز سگ مدان. Your nafs is just like a dog, like a hunting dog. So dogs were used in hunting back then. And maybe nowadays as well, some places. So your nafs is just like that hunting dog. کمترک انداز سگ را سخن. Throw fewer bones at this, to this dog. So again, that idea of moderation, right? Because if the hunting dog is starving, it doesn't have the energy to go and hunt. If the hunting dog is satiated, again, it doesn't feel the need to go and hunt. So it has to be that moderation. If the dog has eaten its fill, it becomes rebellious. You don't want that. That's the nafs al-ammara. The dog has to be a good dog that will go and chase and hunt for you. So you need to train your nafs. You need to tame your nafs. Just like that Arab, because of his need, because of his poverty, it was that poverty which drove him to go to the Sultan. And that's why we spoke about the bounty of the Sultan in this story. Yes, Badr.
Sometimes Mawlana refers obliquely to what he's trying to say. Sometimes he tells you in the form of a story, and then sometimes he builds up to say, right, this is what it is. Moderation, or otherwise you're out of control. You're either, biting everybody's heads off, or you're just rebellious in other really deeply unhelpful ways. It's literally the truth. It's literally observably true. Certainly as this one has experienced life. If I'm honest with myself, I can see that at work. And then we have related in the story the kindness shown by the king to that needy one who had no refuge. So ultimately, I find that there is no refuge except Allah. It's like peeling back layers, or like until you can see that truth, as it were, naked. Yeah, Allah.
Indeed. Yes, Nahaj.
What came to me was Al-Ghani, from the 99 names of Allah, the rich one. That quality of the generosity. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, indeed. And even though he has no need, he's still bountiful. He still accepts what you bring to him. Yes, Badr.
Sudden thought. I wonder if that's why Allah describes himself as Al-Ghani Al-Hamid. Because, his wealth is so endless and generously given that who else is there to praise for that? Praise any other, and it will only turn to dust and ashes.
Indeed, yeah. Allah. So Mawlana says, هر چه گوید مرد عاشق بوی عشق از دهانش می جهد در کوی عشق. Anything that a lover says, you can catch the scent of love. You can catch the fragrance of love in his words. He might be talking about jurisprudence. He might be talking about fiqh. He might be talking about theology. He might be talking about botany. He might be talking about physics. But you catch the scent of poverty. You catch the scent of love in his words. گر بگوید فقه فقر آید همه. He might speak about theology, but it all turns to poverty. It all turns to poverty. So, in tasawwuf, more important than what the person says is the scent, the fragrance, which is why sometimes, a preacher might say all the most beautiful things, all the, quote all the verses from the Qur'an, or quote Sufis, but it doesn't have that effect. It doesn't touch the hearts and souls because it doesn't come from the heart. Another person might say something ordinary, might say something about his cat, but it touches the heart of people because people who can catch that fragrance of the other world is coming, that fragrance of a man in love is coming, even if he's talking about something else. So بوی فقر آید از آن خوش دمدمه. Anything that a man of love is speaking, the fragrance of love can be caught. ور بگوید کفر دارد بوی دین. Even if he's saying something that's kufr outwardly, it has the scent of religion. Right? It has the scent, the fragrance of religion. Outwardly, you might look at it and say, this is kufr. But the fragrance of religion is there. ور به شک گوید شکش گردد یقین. And if it's outwardly, it looks like something of doubt, shak. Inwardly, it's certainty. And yeah, it's like, Hallaj said, Ana-l-Haqq. And people thought that's blasphemy, that's kufr. And Mawlana says it's because they didn't understand what he was saying. What he was saying was, I'm not there anymore. I'm not there anymore. Yeah. If you say, I'm the servant of Allah, there are two existences. It's you and it's Allah. But once you say, I am the truth, it means I'm not there anymore. All that is He. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone can say Ana-l-Haqq. Only someone who has that, only someone who's drunk, in a sense. And when it's the truth who's speaking through him, then he can say that. Even then, he shouldn't say that because, as other Sufis have said, it's a secret that should not be divulged. It shouldn't be. But regardless, he's saying that even the kufr has the scent of religion. It's just like the kaf kaj kas bahr sidqi rastas. It's just like a froth that's perverse, but it's coming from a sea of certainty. The sea itself is a sea of certainty. And the foundation, the source is pure. The foundation is pure and safi. It's just like hamcho dushnam lab ma'shuq dan. It's just like an insult you hear from your beloved. That insult by itself is unpleasant. You don't want to hear that insult from anyone else. But if you hear it from someone you love, just because of that love you have for this person, you love anything that you hear from them, even if it's an insult. That insult becomes sweet because of the beautiful countenance of your beloved, the beautiful face of your beloved. And that's why the falsehood becomes more, the falsehood outwardly, false sentences that you hear from these people, that outward falsehood is sweeter than adorns the truth because it comes from the truth. It comes from that sea of certainty. So Mawlana is again telling us you should look beyond appearances. That's the dhawq, tasting. از شکر گر شکل نانی میپزی طعم قند آید ننان چون میمزی. If you cook candy in the form of a bread, it looks like bread, but it's candy, it's sugar. So when you taste it, what do you taste? Do you taste bread or do you taste sugar? You taste sugar. So you need to have that dhawq, you need to have that tasting to know what is what. Just looking is not enough. Just seeing is not enough. Appearances can be deceiving. And if a believer finds an idol, a golden idol, what does a believer do? Does it leave that idol to be worshipped? No. It will cast it into the fire because the essence of that idol is divine. The essence is gold, and that gold is from Allah. Right? Allah created gold, not for vain. Allah Ta'ala created gold. So it's not the fault of that gold that people worship it. So the essence of that idol is from Allah. It's the form that's hindering. that's waylaying people, the form of that idol. But once you burn that form, the essence itself is pure. The essence itself is from Allah. ذات ذرش ذات ربانیت است. The essence of the gold is the essence of Rabbaniyat, lordship. And the naqshabut, the form is borrowed. And even, you know, in the Qur'an, it says, Yasruduna, people prostrate to the, before the sun, min dun Allah. They forget about Allah instead of Allah. Otherwise, the ray of the sun, it's a reflection of the light of Allah. It's the essence of the sun. The sun is not to be blamed. It's not the sun's fault. It's the people's fault who fail to realize that this sun is not min dun Allah. It's the reflection. It's the manifestation, ayah, sign of Allah, of Allah's light. So don't burn an entire blanket just for the sake of one flea. Don't waste your whole day. Don't let your day go just for a fly, for a gnat or a fly. Idol worship is to remain in forms. So the idolaters are those who remain only in outward forms. They don't go beyond. That's idolatry, according to Mawlana. If you're not an idolater, what you have to do is leave the form and look at the reality. Look beyond the form. Look beyond the appearance. Yes, brother.
Again, it's literally true.
Mm-hmm.
I swear that my sheikh could read the phone book and it would all be about love. You know, it's really strange. It's really
Allah.
strange.
Yes. Indeed.
And also, where it's do not look at his figure and color, look at his purpose and intention. I think it is Hazrat Imam Ali salam, who said, "Don't judge the truth by the person speaking it, but by the truth." I can't remember the saying, but I believe that that's essentially
the
thing.
Don't look at who is saying, but at what is being said. Yeah.
So that's very true. That's just exact truth.
Allah. Yeah. So the next part, Mawlana says, Mard Hajji Hamrah Haji Talab. If you're going for pilgrimage, you're going for Hajj, go and seek a companion who is also going for Hajj. You need to have the same destination. If it's someone who wants to go somewhere else, wants to go to New Zealand, that's not a good companion. But someone else who wants to go to Hajj as well, you can go with that person. Now, as long as they want to go for Hajj, you have the same destination, you have the same goal. It doesn't matter if they're Turkish, if they're Indian, if they're Arab. Because what matters is their purpose, is their intention, not their color, not their figure. گر سیاه هست و هماهنگ تو است. If he's black, he might be a black person coming to the pilgrimage with you, but he has the same intention. He has a pure intention. So, color of the heart, it's what matters, right? Not the color of the skin, not the color of the face. So, he has the same intention. He is with you. He has the same purpose. So he's your companion. So again, Mawlana is saying, don't look at the outward appearance, go deeper. And then Mawlana says, In hikayat gufte shod zir o zabar. This story, which we told, the story of the Bedouin and the Caliph, was told up and down. Just like most of the stories that Mawlana tells, up and down. It doesn't follow what you would think. It's just like the actions of lovers. It doesn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end. It's infinite. It has no beginning because it comes from the azal, before eternity. It has no end, pa nadarat, it has no foot or it has no end because it's akin to everlastingness. So yeah, this is why, some people read the Masnavi and say, why is this a little bit incoherent? Mawlana is talking about the Bedouin and the Caliph, and then he talks about hunger, and then he talks about repentance, and then there's a story about knowledge, and then it's not like other books when you have, a section on repentance, everything is about repentance, a section on knowledge, everything is about knowledge. And same with the Qur'an, actually. every surah of the Quran, it's about Allah, and Allah is everything. So every surah is about everything. Every place in the Quran, that's the beginning and that's the end. It's just like, it doesn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end. It's like water. Every drop is the both beginning and end. Every place you start, that's the beginning and that's the end, and that's without both, because there's no beginning, no end. It's infinite. And then Mawlana says, Hasha lillah, what am I saying? This is not a story. I'm not here to tell stories. In hikayat nist, this is not a fable. This is not a fairy tale. This is about us. Naqt hal ma wa tostin, khosh bibin. It's about the state of you and me. So that's why you should listen well. You should consider well. Zanke Sufi ba karo ba far بود, because the Sufi is glorious. هرچه آن ماضی است لا یذکر بود. Everything that's mazi, everything that's about the past shouldn't be mentioned. Nothing about the past should be mentioned. So Mawlana is saying, when I'm talking about the Bedouin and the Caliph, I'm not talking about the Bedouin and Caliph that lived a long time ago. I'm talking about the Bedouin in you, and the Caliph in you, and the jar in you. When I'm talking about Moses and Pharaoh, I'm talking about the Moses that's in you, the Pharaoh that's in you. All these stories, they're in you, here and now. I'm not talking about the past. Even the Quran, some people who didn't believe in the Quran, they would say this is about the past. Asatir al-awwalin, fables from the ancient times. What has it to do with us? A long time ago, there was Moses and Pharaoh, so what? But no, the Prophet says, no, this is not about al-awwalin. This is not about a long time ago. This is about here and now. The Moses and Pharaoh, they're all in you. All of these are in you. So they're naqt. Naqt is here and now. Here and now, this is your condition, my condition. This is our state. We're all of these. We're the Arab, we're the jug, we're the king, we're all of them. So جمله ما يؤفك عنه من أفك. He that has been turned away from it shall be turned away. Yes, Badaba.
So the couplet, we are both the Arab and the jug and the king, we are all. He that has been turned away from it shall be turned away. That looks like a quotation, that second line. The Quran,
it is indeed. It is indeed. Yeah, it is indeed from the Quran. It should be in the last, in the juz, the 30th juz. I'm not sure exactly which surah. Maybe Al-Dhariyat, if I'm not mistaken. He that has been turned away from it shall be turned away. So those who turn away from the truth, initially, that's when truth turns away from them, in a sense, and they shall be turned away more from the truth. The more they oppose the truth. That's the idea. If I'm not mistaken, the verse before that is أنكم لفي قول مختلف, right? And then يؤفك عنهم. Yes, Rafa.
Yeah. So, what is like? Is there like a reference in here to the burning of gold? The idol is made of gold. Is a reference to the Kaf, the Bani Israel, the Ijl, when they
could be, yeah,
and the reference to also Moses, and like maybe there is like this reference to that incident,
yeah, absolutely, it could be, yeah. Yeah, because that was an idol from gold, literally. Okay, we still have a page and a half from this section. So my suggestion is next week, let's start from this line and read it again, because I don't want to rush through these. What do you think? Because there are some quite deep verses here, so I don't think we should rush. So we're both the Arab and the jug and the king. We're all. He that has been turned away from it shall be turned away. So inshallah, next week we can start from this line. Know that the husband is reason onwards. Inshallah, talk about it. And yeah, thank you, Kansa, for the reference. Yeah, it's Al-Dhariyat, verse 9. Okay, so yeah, let's inshallah move to the divan.